Good afternoon, boys and girls. What's up, and welcome to another edition of the Winged Eagle Podcast on a happy Saturday afternoon here on the channel. We were off last week. I got home from the Jericho cruise one day prior to last week's scheduled Winged Eagle Podcast, so there was no way I was going to be able to put notes together and come up here to do my normal Saturday deal. So we've been off for a couple of weeks, and we got to play catch-up now. We got a lot to get into because we are right off the heels of the Royal Rumble. We had a big week of TV. I'm laughing at my notes here because it's literally just wrestling. I mean, just wrestling. So I've kind of abridged this down and trying to get through it in 90 minutes. We have 90 minutes to get through this podcast because I have to leave in an hour and a half. So we're going to bust it all in, and I've got everything written down here. We have some big wrestling news. Then we'll move into a little bit of Monday Night Raw. We'll talk about AEW and NXT this week, both really good shows. The ratings were really close as well. And we'll touch on last night's SmackDown. We'll preview TakeOver Portland coming up 2 weeks from tomorrow. We've got Revolution coming up at the end of the month. And, of course, WrestleMania is here, and speculation is running rampant. Let me make sure I can be seen and heard real quick. Then we'll move I can be seen. Things can be seen. Things can be heard. Thank you to everybody that's here already. Hopefully we'll have a decent audience in here this afternoon, and the format will be, like I said, we'll talk about the wrestling news first because there are some really big internal shakeups in WWE that is not small news. I mean, it's kind of a big deal, and it could have bigger implications than we think, especially with WWE set to report its fourth quarter earnings, and I think the entire 2019 here on February 6th, big conference call there, and there's some speculation as to what some of those numbers are going to be, and maybe that is what caused these departures from WWE. Who knows? So we're going to get into all that stuff. We'll talk about the revival. We'll talk about Andrade's 30-day suspension. Brock Lesnar, Matt Riddle got into some sort of confrontation at the Royal Rumble. Bret Hart has revealed another health issue that he's got. We want to wish him well. And on Raw, climaxed with the amazing angle between Randy Orton and Edge that I think is going to make for a really fun WrestleMania program. So we got a lot to get into, like I said, and that's pretty much going to be the format here as we go through, and we'll wrap up business with SmackDown at the end. Let me just say hello to anybody that might be in here, and no super chats yet, nothing like that. We do have a moderator in here, so that's good. Good to see you, Ratnick and Vash, and How Wheezy, Jet Hawk, Hothead, Harry Rice, William, Stone Cold, Sam, Ben. All right, cool. Pretty decent group in here so far. So who do y'all got for the Super Bowl tomorrow? We've got big Super Bowl coming up tomorrow, and it's Chiefs and 49ers, which is pretty much what a lot of fans probably wanted. I mean, those were two of the top teams in the league. They have both really exciting offenses. I think it could be a fun game. I haven't watched really much Super Bowl build. I was on the cruise all last week, and I've only kind of been eyeballing the TV. I said as soon as Championship Sunday was over, I hope Joe Montana has a big influence in the Super Bowl or big presence here, considering these are his two former teams. But I think the game is going to be fun. I'm probably rooting for the Chiefs just because it's kind of in the family. My brother-in-law is a big Chiefs fan. We're kind of hoping just for his sake because the Chiefs have never won a Super Bowl, or it's been 50 years or whatever it's been. Kind of hoping it for him, 49ers have already had several dynasties, so let's give the Chiefs one. So I'm kind of rooting for them tomorrow, but in the end, if they lose and San Fran wins, I don't care. It's really fun to enjoy the Super Bowl when you really don't care who wins. The Patriots are in it every year, and I fucking hate them, so I'm always wanting them to lose, but it's nice to have a year where I just want to see a great football game. I hope this thing goes to triple sudden death. I hope it's written well. Main event of WrestleMania type of story and all that. So best of luck to both teams. And who are y'all with? 49ers, Niners, Chiefs. Looks like it's pretty split. AEW has hired George Barrios. I don't think so. But anyway, that's what we're going to open up here with in a second. But I do want to shout out my patrons like I do on every Winged Eagle podcast. And I'm only shouting out the active patrons. We've had well over 100 over the years here on the channel, but these are the active ones at the moment. And I always want to shout out Barry MK400, who I think's been with me since fucking day one. Dude, I'm probably coming back to Kauai next year. A year from next month over Easter. We took a detour last time around, but I'm going to be back in Kauai in 2021, so maybe we can meet up again. That would be fun. Blake Moran, thank you very much. Claudio Clavadetster, Domanian Elwell Sr., Daniel Rodriguez, Jordan Karg, John Riffle, Josiah Blevins, John Redifer, Keith Salyers, King Daddy Dev, who is my friend Devlin that I met on the cruise, Michael Cuomo, Mr. Steve, Nathan Walker, Ryan Y, Steve Myers, and the Double Z TV. Thank you to all of you for all your support. And speaking of that Jericho Cruise, most of you know I did release a big kind of vlog recap video on that, completely different type of video that I'm used to doing on the channel. And it's gotten not a ton of views, only a couple of thousand, but really good feedback. And you guys really liked kind of that format. And anytime I go on any trips or WrestleManias or whatever, I will try to do something like that because a lot of you enjoyed the recap video and felt that I gave you guys a good idea what was going on there. So I appreciate the good feedback, and I'm happy that that seems to be something I have a knack for. Maybe I can do more of it in the future. And I already have my second idea. My notes are being made, and I've had this idea for a long time, and I will reveal to you what it is, but I'm going to have that up during WrestleMania season. But I can probably even have it done within like 2 weeks if I really put my mind to it, but it's going to be the same style as the cruise video, but just on a completely different subject, and I think you guys are really going to like it. And I'm already kind of starting to develop my schedule for WrestleMania season because WrestleMania week, as a very loud motorcycle goes by, WrestleMania week the past few years, I've tried to do like a video every day. So, just with a different WrestleMania type subject. And I pretty much am going to do the same thing this year. So it'll be a fun week. It'll be a fun WrestleMania season. And I'm looking forward to it on the channel. Next year, hopefully, I will be at WrestleMania. My girlfriend and I were talking about going this year, and we would if it wasn't so likely that it's going to be here next year. I am almost certain that WrestleMania will be in LA next year. If not LA, it'll be Vegas. Either which, I'm there, regardless of which one that is. Unless they throw us a curveball and they go to Atlanta or they go to Minnesota or something like that. But I would think, it's time for the West Coast to get another WrestleMania. So I'm expecting them to be here. So that's why we're kind of holding out, figuring that WrestleMania might just be right up the road, an hour and a half drive from me in Los Angeles. And if it is, I'll be up there for that, and it wouldn't be pointless to fly all the way to Florida again, especially since we were just in Miami for the Jericho Cruise, to go down there in Tampa, which is a city that I've been to a bunch of times. I'm not sure if it's one that I'd want to navigate a WrestleMania through. So gonna sit this one out, but one of these days, guys, I promise you, I'm going to get to a WrestleMania, and when I do, we'll do a big fun video like I did for the cruise. So anyway, if you want to check out that cruise recap, the link is in the upper right of the screen there, along with my most recent classic pay-per-view review that I did on the Royal Rumble 2007. And if you want to hear my full thoughts on this past Monday's Raw, the link to that is up there as well. Now, in a minute, we're going to talk a little bit about Raw because I just want to give some love to the Randy Orton and Edge segment, and we'll talk about Drew McIntyre and Charlotte as well. So we are going to touch on Raw, but if you want more detailed comments, they're in the upper right there. But let's start with the wrestling news because I want to talk about this internal shakeup in WWE because this is kind of alarming or scary, I want to say, just because these two people have been with the company for a long time. They're co-presidents, George Barrios and Michelle Wilson. Now, they are out effective immediately. They were essentially just fired, let go by Vince McMahon, who had a different vision of what the company's future is, was basically the way his statement was worded on these departures. They will no longer serve on the board of directors. They've got a guy named Frank A. Riddick III, who's been named interim chief financial officer for the time being. And right after these announcements, WWE's stock plummeted, like big time. So that, I don't know much about stocks. My dad, my stepdad actually has a bunch of money invested for me in stocks, and he kind of handles all that. I'm an idiot when it comes to that shit. So I think in this situation, that can be something that can recover. That was probably the initial, news of these big time executives leaving the company, and that caused the stock to plummet. But also, it's interesting timing on that because on February 6th, WWE is set to release all of their earnings, I think, from the past year in 2019. So they, the fourth quarter and the whole year. So if their numbers are that they already probably know are going to be down, maybe this is their early way of saying, okay, look, not to freak out the stockholders or whatever, we're going to let some people go and we're going to make some changes and we're going to do our best to increase these numbers. So maybe this is them already, taking action to what is possibly going to be bad news on February 6th. But one thing I was thinking about that could be a big deal here is the network subscriptions, because they're set to announce what their current subscriber number is. And from what the rumors are, like I said, I don't know, but the rumors are they're way down. And if it does in fact dip below that 1 million subscriber mark, which to me blows my mind. I mean, the WWE Network is worth so much more than $9.99 a month. I have no idea why anybody would want to cancel that. Even if you're pissed at WWE and you're mad that, somebody you don't like won a match or whatever the fuck, there's still so much content on there worth the price of admission? I mean, I think it's just fans' like way of getting back at WWE. Yeah, you pissed me off, I'm going to cancel my network. Where to me, there's just an infinite amount of wrestling on there. If you're just in a mood to watch some wrestling, I'd rather have that than Netflix, to be honest with you. So why the network subscriptions could go down to is a mystery based on price, because to me it's worth it. But one major reason could be WWE moving NXT to the USA Network. And it's also being rumored that WWE got no money from USA for NXT. They're basically putting NXT on the USA Network for free to combat AEW and to stunt the growth of AEW, which WWE has every right to do. Back in the day, Ted Turner did the same thing. Hey, Eric, what do I have to do to compete with WWE? Give me prime time. Holy shit, I own a network. There you go. 2 hours every Monday night on TNT. Same thing happened. So WWE essentially is just doing the same thing. Oh, we've got competition on that night. Let's go there too, to try to hurt them. They're doing the same thing because they have that power now. Back in the day, they were, kissing the ass of the USA Network. Now it's almost like the other way around. WWE can pretty much do whatever they want on the USA Network, and they have now agreed just to put that program on there and not get paid for it just to compete with AEW. But what that might have done, even though that might be a smart business move if WWE wants to stop the growth of any potential competition, you might have sacrificed NXT in the process, and we were already concerned about that from the beginning, were we not? We were like, okay, great, they're on USA Network now, but one of the great things about NXT is that it's a small, concentrated program. It's an hour-long, commercial-free on the network. It has its own fan base. The TakeOver crowd has a different sort of attitude and atmosphere about it, and it's just a great part of the wrestling business that we can all watch and appreciate really good wrestling, because everything in NXT, it seems like they were doing right creatively, and match structure and the way the pay-per-views are and just how they're so much different than the main brand. So we were worried that them moving to the USA Network could compromise that and essentially maybe change their identity. Well, now we've seen NXT takeovers being moved to their own pay-per-view. It's 2 weeks from tomorrow, so it's a Sunday pay-per-view for Portland instead of being attached to the pay-per-views, which I don't like. I much prefer the old ways of the takeovers, but also the only previous way you could watch NXT was on the network. Now it's on the USA Network. Now it's free. And I think they still air the replays on the WWE Network, but that's the primary way of watching it now. So you can just set your recording or whatever your cable provider is, and you can watch it that way. So if some people were only buying the WWE Network to watch NXT, they don't need the WWE Network anymore, and they are canceling their subscriptions. So if it turns out that WWE, they did all of this to compete with AEW, and it might have backfired, because now they're putting a TV show on, USA for free, not getting paid for it. And they're compromising and decreasing their network subscribers, because that's previously where the only place we could watch NXT. All of that just to try to be on the same night and fuck with AEW, to me seems incredibly petty. And I kind of hope that things backfired on them a little bit here, because to be honest, they kind of deserve it. Now, I'm going to be singing the praises of NXT in a minute here. I actually think they had the better show this week, but I'm concerned for the future of NXT if, number one, WWE is moving it, changing its identity already, moving it away from the network on USA for 2 hours. They're not beating AEW in the ratings. They've had a couple of good weeks, and the ratings are very close. Like this week was 100,000, no big deal. They're still up there, but if they just continue to lose, at what point do they say, okay, let's start bringing in the Roman Reigns? And, let's start bringing in Seth Rollins or main roster people to give NXT some good quality matches to be able to beat AEW in the ratings, because I said all along, anytime WWE wants to win the ratings, they can. They can just bring AJ Styles down there or whoever the fuck else, and especially previous NXT people like Shinsuke Nakamura or Samoa Joe or whatever, bring them in, put them in big feature matches, and they'll probably spark a bigger rating than AEW when they do that. But I don't want them to do that. I don't want NXT to change its identity. So at least for the time being, despite WWE losing in the ratings to Dynamite every week, they're not doing too much to change. They're not panicking and saying, okay, let's completely change the way NXT looks, because once that happens, I'm not sure if it's going to recover, and I would hate for NXT to be a casualty in this WWE and AEW war. And right now, it feels like that could be likely. So I'm just hoping they don't panic or anything like that, regardless of what the numbers are, and start doing anything drastic and start fucking with the one part of your company that's actually good, the one portion of the company that fans actually appreciate for its wrestling, for its creativity, for its pay-per-view and match builds and main events and title matches and all of that. We love NXT for all that stuff. Don't fuck it up. and it's just, oh my God, they probably will too. Don't you think? I'm scared shitless about that. So anyway, very interesting moves internally, and I don't follow too much of WWE on the business end of things, but I do find these stories interesting because of how big, these people were. I mean, they were only there about 10 years each, so it's not like they had a huge run. They weren't like 30-year employees or anything. Like WWE is a pretty well-oiled business machine to where I'm sure they can find replacements without a problem. But when you hear things like they have a difference of opinion from Vince McMahon as to what the future of the company is, that just says that this is all Vince. I mean, this has Vince written all over it. He doesn't like their vision and he wants them out. So this all goes back to like, at what point is WWE going to be better off with Vince? The XFL is set to launch here. They're spread thin enough as it is, and I just worry I worry about the disorganization, entropy, if you will, of the company, that, everything that is one time organized becomes disorganized. And it's just the more and more shit you hear like this, the more it just starts getting shuffled around and the more the TV suffers for it. And, every week on SmackDown, and, Raw's been actually pretty good the last few weeks, but every week on SmackDown, it's just the same show. So, I mean, it's just a trickle down everywhere. So, oh my God, WWE, I mean, they're still going to keep moving. I mean, it's still going to be Saudi Arabia shows and WrestleManias and selling out arenas and all of that. But it seems like just a discombobulated soup internally in the WWE, and it makes me a little frightened. And speaking about how fucked up things are in WWE, the Revival have once again asked for the release. Now, it was January of 2019, 1 year ago. They asked for the release. It made the news. We talked about it. And WWE was like, all right, give us a chance to change your mind. They put the tag belts on them a couple of times, but ultimately, even when they were champions, they were losing, they were getting jobber entrances, they were made to look like buffoons and fools, and were never made to be taken seriously at all, despite having the belts. They had small alliances with Shane McMahon, with Randy Orton, none of which amounted to anything, both of which I think could have been somewhat successful. If you would have had the Revival as Shane's kind of cronies, like as his Gerald and Patterson, might have been fun. Randy Orton could have created a new legacy with those two guys, but WWE just never did anything. So now they've said they want out again. WWE might as well just cut their losses and stop being dicks and let them go. Their contracts are up really soon, in just a couple of months or just a few months. May and June, or April and June. One of them, whichever one had the broken jaw, got like 10 weeks added to his contract. So they're stuck for a little while, but not that much longer. I mean, by the time we get to summertime, they can be in AEW. So if WWE just wants to prolong that to be assholes, they can. They have every right to do that, and they probably will. But that just reassures that these guys are not re-signing. And apparently they turned down $700,000 a year deals each to leave because, quote, they just want out. And I want them to get out. We got Luke Harper about to debut any day on AEW. I cannot wait to see that. In the Revival, I mean, think about it. That's kind of exciting, though, don't you think? Regardless of, I mean, with them asking for their release, regardless of WWE, if they give that to them or not, we're going to see them in All Elite Wrestling by like the summertime. By the time we get to like 4th of July in August, and by the time we get to Labor Day next year, which is going to be here before we know it, they're going to be in AEW kicking ass and helping that what's already a really strong tag team division. So I want them out. I think they're better off out. I think the Revival are a great, fun tag team that I enjoyed the hell out of in NXT. So if you move them back to NXT, great, keep them around because they'll have some great matches there, and they won't look like two pieces of shit on a stick. So either go to NXT or AEW is the place for you. I think they'd be great, and I can't wait to see them go there. So best of luck to the Revival. We talked a little bit about Andrade last Monday on Raw. He was suspended 30 days for a wellness policy violation. Now, they did the angle on Raw where he defended the U.S. title again against Humberto Carrillo, and Humberto won via DQ when Zelina interfered, and then proceeded to take Andrade on the outside of the ring and DDT him on the exposed concrete, which was basically the injury angle there. And Andrade is now going to be off of TV. Now, I mentioned on Monday that this really surprised me because it pays to have powerful friends in WWE. Because I've said it all along, when it comes to the wellness policy, the suspensions and the punishments are the same across the board. Roman Reigns, whoever you are, if you get popped, you're suspended 30 days. There's no wiggle room there. But there is wiggle room in terms of how you're treated on like television. You look at the Usos with these multiple DUIs and run-ins with the law. You know, they're still on TV and top storylines with their homie Roman Reigns because they're cousins with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns himself, who's WWE's like handpicked chosen one, or at least we thought, got suspended in 2016. You know, came back. Took him a little while to get back to the top, but eventually won the title before relinquishing it due to the leukemia diagnosis. So now you've got Andrade, who is with Charlotte. They're engaged, and he has got popped for a wellness policy violation. You would think that anybody else other than Andrade or somebody at the top of the card, if this was somebody like maybe an Aleister Black or whoever, or Rusev, and they were United States champion, I will bet my middle nut that person would be dropping that belt on Raw before their suspension. But not Andrade. You know, they're basically probably like, all right, that tells me that this is forgivable. Go home for 30 days, come back, business as usual. You'll wrap up your program and probably win against Humberto Carrillo, and then you'll just continue to be champ and move on. But another kind of, another negative of this is that now you got Raw with no belts, essentially. I mean, Brock Lesnar is champion, but he's not defending that thing until WrestleMania, and he's never on the show, so there's no belt to challenge for there. Now you have no United States title either. The top singles title on Raw right now is the men's, anyway, is the 24/7 title. So this is a chance for Becky to really take center stage here. You know, as the champion, whatever they plan on doing with her going into WrestleMania, whether that involves Shayna Baszler, if we see Ronda Rousey again or whatever, this time for her to take center stage and have some good segments and maybe even some good matches on Raw, because she's got to carry the torch. She's the only fucking singles champion there, unless you count Mojo Rawley, and I don't. So yeah, that kind of sucks too with Andrade gone. You got like no belts on Raw. What are these guys wrestling for? There's no championships to contend for. And the tag titles, I guess, with Seth and Buddy can be taking center stage as well. But yeah, I don't know. I usually get excited for WrestleMania season on Raw and SmackDown and stuff, but I specifically remember last year we were kind of like, this WrestleMania build sucks. You know, most of the Raws were shit, and that sucked because it should be the opposite. I also want to touch on Brock Lesnar and Matt Riddle. Apparently they had some sort of a confrontation similar to what Matt Riddle and Goldberg had back at SummerSlam last year. This happened at the Royal Rumble last Sunday. Somebody, I guess, clued Brock in. I mean, these are the stories that we're reading, so who knows the validity of them. But I'm sorry, I got to come back and answer a couple of these super chats, by the way. But apparently Brock was like keyed into the fact that Matt Riddle's tagging him in a bunch of shit on Twitter and, you know, constantly talking about how he wants a match with him. And Brock, there's conflicting reports. Some people said it was just a quiet conversation. Other people said that Brock grabbed Riddle by the throat and said, stop tagging me and shit. We're never going to work together or whatever. And Matt Riddle's like, yeah, you know, it's not up to you. If the company wants us to work, we're going to work. So Matt is hell-bent on having a match with him. And apparently there was some sort of a confrontation. Now, he also did the thing with Goldberg. I don't know if this is going to eventually have anything to do with each other. I'm almost envisioning some sort of an angle on TV where Goldberg and Brock Lesnar team up and they attack Matt Riddle and just beat the shit out of him. Like, just beat him bloody. You know, put him through a table, and then Matt Riddle comes back to challenge Goldberg first and beats him, and then has the match with Brock. I don't know. That's like way down the line. To me, it seems like Matt Riddle just doing whatever he can to get himself noticed. And I'm surprised that WWE's like okay with that, with the talent going and fucking with other talent. Apparently, the two were kept separated after the Rumble because they were both in the Rumble, just not at the same time. So I don't know what's going on there. In a real fight, though, you know, with Matt Riddle and Goldberg, I think if they got in a real fight, Matt Riddle would beat the shit out of him. Brock Lesnar and Matt Riddle, I'm not sure. If I was Matt Riddle, I wouldn't be poking the bear there. So interesting. It's always kind of fun when that shit happens. And now you got these, you know, UFC guys in WWE that are starting to, you know, have real beefs with each other. We'll see where it leads. But I did find it interesting. And also I want to shout out favorite wrestler of all time, Bret the Hitman Hart. His latest health scare is that he's revealed some skin cancer, some basal cell carcinoma, I think it's called. Pretty common form of skin cancer. He's got it on his shoulder. He's got it scheduled to be removed. And I've known some people with that sort of thing. And this is not like a Matt Capitelli situation. Bret Hart is going to be fine. He just needs to take better care of himself, keep getting himself checked, and wear fucking sunscreen. And that's a lesson I need to tell myself, because I've always been real bad about being in the sun, because I've always lived near the beach. So make sure you put your sunscreen on, and always check your head, your arms, your shoulders, everything. And if you see something funny looking, go get it checked. So best of luck to Bret Hart. We love you. You know we do. I did say that I want to touch on Raw just a little bit because I got to show some more love to Randy Orton and Edge. That was fantastic. Now, the whole Edge return has been wonderful for him. His return at the Royal Rumble, and I know WWE botched the camera spot and didn't catch the spear, but that wasn't the most important part. The most important part the camera did catch, and that was the look on Edge's face. After he made his entrance and he's come through the smoke there and he's looking around, you could see what was being said in his head. You could see it in his eyes. It was written right there. He's like, am I really here? That's what he was saying to himself. I can't, imagine, after just 9 years or something, just entering an environment that you haven't seen and it's all of a sudden comes rushing back at you. I've never seen any sort of emotion etched on any wrestler's face like that. And it was just so awesome to see him back because that stung, man. His retirement just sucked. And Edge, we knew Edge was on his way out anyway. We figured Edge had a year left. But him to retire not the way he wanted, I always thought was sad. And just the whole night and the promo of him announcing that he can't wrestle anymore was heartbreaking. So here he is, not too late, 46 years old. If he's going to have any sort of a comeback, it's like now or never. He came back at the Rumble, looked great for someone his age. He looks older. I said he looked like Castaway with that hair and that beard. But as far as the ring shape that he was in, looks like he's been working out. Because he was hitting everything perfectly. He was fast. His timing was good. He didn't look to be rusty at all. So, and to be in the shape that he was really impressive. So that was an amazing moment. We knew we were going to get a promo from him on Raw. It was the main event segment. And I said right from the start, as soon as Edge was rumored to come back, I had Randy Orton pegged as his opponent. Because I was like, if Edge does come back, what do you think he'll do? And I've mentioned that Randy Orton, with all their history, would be perfect. So this is something I think I said over Labor Day, right after SummerSlam when he hit the spear, and we were talking about an Edge return in Saudi Arabia. And I was like, Randy Orton could be a good opponent for him. So as soon as they hooked up in the Royal Rumble, I'm like, there it is. So now it's a matter of, do they form Rated RKO first, and tear through some teams and tear through some people on TV before Randy Orton turns on him? One way or the other, we know Randy Orton's going to turn on him. I thought it was going to happen in the Royal Rumble, hit him with an RKO or whatever. Edge turned the tables on Randy and tossed him out and saw his attack coming. And then on Raw, comes out in the main event to cut a promo talking about how he's back. And reports are that he signed a 3-year deal worth $3 million a year. Apparently did have some talks with AEW. They offered him around the same thing, probably for a super light schedule. But, again, a guy like Edge, staying in the WWE was the right call. Going to AEW wouldn't have made sense. He wouldn't have been Edge. He would have been Adam Copeland. Which is just a simple name change. Everybody still knows who he is, but he can't capitalize on his legacy and his history and all of that. The best place to do that and to cement yourself is WWE, just based on that's where Edge made his entire career. Edge did everything in WWE. He never did anything outside of WWE, aside from a few dark matches in WCW. Other than that, his entire career was WWE. So to me, it wouldn't have made any sense for him to sign with AEW. So him coming back here and with all the guys he can work with, which he shouted out a bunch in his promo, he's got 3 years to do it. So hopefully we can see some really good matches with Edge. And Randy Orton, of course, then comes out, and we hadn't seen Randy Orton all night. So you knew Orton was going to be a part of this feud, or of this segment, And the two of them share some kind words and I think even embrace. And that was what was kind of confusing me. My only argument really, or my only critique of this segment was that Edge saw Randy Orton's sneakiness coming at the Royal Rumble. Why didn't he see it coming on Raw? He hugged him and turned his back on him? Are you fucking nuts? And sure enough, Randy Orton hits the RKO on Edge, and that's when it got gnarly. Because Randy Orton, we haven't seen him tap into that really sadistic side of him in a while. And the way he attacked Edge like that, and Edge was just unconscious, and he had his head in that chair, and he was about to Pillmanize the neck of Edge on the second rope, and you can see the fans like, holy shit, no, don't do it. And then he doesn't, and he jumps down, and he's like, I just can't do it, can't do it to Edge, and starts walking away, only to immediately turn around, sprint back to the ring, grab another chair, and instead of doing the Pillman thing, he gives Edge a one-man concerto on the mat, just smashing the skull of Edge. And just the hush over the crowd and the heat that it gave Randy Orton, I loved it. I thought the segment was just phenomenal. That's big time shit. And now you got your WrestleMania match booked. Now, I had speculated on Monday. I'm like, I hope they're not going to fast track this thing to the Saudi show. But I don't think so. I mean, an angle like that is meant for WrestleMania. An angle like that, it's so rare for them to do something that actually gets the crowd legitimately concerned for Edge. I mean, there's people in the crowd, you knew that they were like really worried that he was seriously hurt. I thought they played it off well on NXT on Wednesday as well when they opened up the show with Beth Phoenix saying a few words about the situation. So the whole thing was just really well done. And so now Edge, this allows them time, because you got a ways to go, 2 full months until WrestleMania. This allows them some time now to build this thing. Edge will be off TV for a couple of weeks. He'll come back. He'll challenge Randy Orton. The match will be set up. And I think it's an excellent match to have for WrestleMania. Edge versus Randy Orton, all that history. It'll be a good entry feud and program for Edge to be in, to get his feet wet again and get back in the groove in WWE, back in the ring, work with somebody that he can trust and has a ton of experience with. And he's already worked with for the past 15 years. The two know each other very well. So, if I'm in Edge's situation and I've got triple fusion neck surgery and I'm coming back after 9 years off from the ring, I want to be in there with one of my friends, and somebody that's going to take care of me. So I think Orton's the right guy. I'm excited to see where they go with it, especially if you do things like Beth Phoenix getting involved and, maybe another home invasion. I don't know. Maybe Randy Orton pays Edge and Beth a visit in Asheville, which is an awesome city in Western North Carolina. Maybe recreate some of that Triple H, Stephanie, Randy Orton stuff. I don't know. But I'm looking forward to it, and I think the whole thing was kicked off and done extremely well on Monday. Raw was a good show. Raw was a really good show. We had Drew McIntyre opening the show, his big victory speech after winning the Royal Rumble. He announces right there who he's going to challenge. Pretty obvious. It's going to be Brock. The whole Royal Rumble was built that way, for Brock to get eliminated by Drew winning, setting up this big match. And apparently that will be the main event. This is going to be Drew McIntyre's night. They're going to put him over. I don't see how this is anything other than great news. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, Brock beat Roman Reigns at 34, so why can't he do the same thing to Drew? He can. You're right. He absolutely can. So McIntyre's not necessarily a given, a 100%, but to me it feels like it. They've got a guy on the cusp here that they should want to build. There's, don't do with McIntyre what you did with Strowman. You got a chance here. Fucking do it. You need another major player. You need another top contender on your roster. So I think all signs right now are pointing to McIntyre being, made to look like $1 million and launched, as your next WWE champion. And I hope that's what happens. Now, on the other side of things, and I should mention in the promo after he announced that he's going to challenge Brock Lesnar, Brock attacked him and hit him with the F5. So I think the segments and the promos and the build to this match at WrestleMania has the potential to be really good because Drew's just a badass. And I think, when Paul Heyman talks down and demeans people, I don't think he's going to have that effect on McIntyre, in the promos and stuff where, McIntyre is just going to keep being a badass. He's like a Razor Ramon and Rick Rude, just fucking badass all rolled into one, And I just, I think that he's going to be like one of those, I'm not going to take any of your shit, Brock Lesnar, where Roman Reigns is a little more tame in the promos and stuff, where McIntyre, I think, is just going to knock him out. So I am looking forward to it. Looking forward to Orton and Edge. Looking forward to Drew and Brock. That's good, right? Also looking forward to Charlotte because she came out to cut a promo as well. We thought she was going to announce who she's going to challenge, but they're going to string us along here. She said she hasn't decided yet. Now, when you look at the two titles, you've got Becky Lynch, who I think her going into WrestleMania to face Charlotte really doesn't make any whole lot of sense right now. So it ain't going to be Becky Lynch. So Becky's probably going to do something with Shayna Baszler, which is the rumor. Ronda Rousey could still get involved. I'm not ruling Ronda out. I still think she'll be back. And I think that that's like a natural rematch to do. The way Becky won the title in the main event and Ronda's shoulder was never down. How do you not just do this again? So I guess it all just depends on Ronda. So Becky, I think, is going to have a different opponent. Bayley, on the other hand, her next opponent right now on SmackDown is going to be Naomi, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I expect Bayley at this point, she should take that title into WrestleMania as well. I don't want to see Bayley drop it now. So carry it into Mania, potentially drop it. And I think the best opponent for Bayley at this time would be Sasha, based on their history, based on the year that they had together, losing the tag team titles last year at WrestleMania, crying on the locker room floor and all that shit. Sasha Banks takes a few months off, and now she's back, and now the two have a match again, but this time in a disappointing match that they felt that they were underutilized in for the tag team titles. Now they're facing for the world title. So I think it could be Bayley and Sasha. Where does that leave Charlotte? Miss Ripley, what do you think? I would absolutely love it, and that's the talk right now. People are talking a lot about this. I would absolutely love it if Charlotte swerved us and said, you know what? I'm going to go back to where I came from. I'm going to go back to NXT and show these new women who the queen is. and I'm going to be the first woman to, well, I guess she's already held the NXT title, but I want to go back down there and reconquer that. And so maybe she challenges Rhea Ripley. And if she does challenge Rhea Ripley, where do you do the match? Do you do it at WrestleMania or do it at TakeOver? And would Charlotte win? I mean, are they trying to really, what are they trying to do here? Are they trying to really get Rhea Ripley over strong? Because to me, this match is kind of quick. Rhea just won the title. It's almost too fast to do this Charlotte match. It seems like this is something you do for SummerSlam, when you build Rhea up and just continue building her as a badass. And then you do the big match with Charlotte where you're like, holy shit, this is a dream match. So now, if they do it here, it almost makes me think it's going to be a way for WWE to put Rhea Ripley over stronger. Like have her just be the dominant woman in NXT. She's 23 years old. And so if she beats Charlotte in a big time match like this, beats the best WWE wrestler ever, and then Charlotte has to go back to the main roster while Rhea continues to kill it on NXT, and then you do the rematch in a year where Charlotte gets the victory back on the main roster or something, it could be a good way to continue to build this mega star, this mega female star in Rhea Ripley. So we'll see. But based on the fact that I don't want to see Charlotte really work with Becky or Bayley, I don't know what else she does other than challenge Rhea Ripley. The only other thing I think she can do is what I mentioned last time, is redo the triple threat, complete rematch from WrestleMania 35, where Charlotte finally says, she comes out on Raw and says, okay, I'm going to challenge Becky Lynch for the title. That's my decision. And then during the build of the match, much like Charlotte kind of did last year, if you remember, Charlotte won the SmackDown title and wormed her way into the match. You got Ronda coming out and says, hey, hold up, hold the phone. I never lost that belt. Let's go to the replay of WrestleMania last year. Look at that. Becky's got me pinned, and look, my shoulder is up. She didn't win that belt. She's been walking around for the past years an uncrowned champion with my belt. So Charlotte, you might get the match at WrestleMania, but I want in. And then you do a triple threat again. The whole entire match again. Just not in the main event. You do it middle of the card, or you open the show with it, or whatever. I think Seth and Brock opened last year, right? So those are, I guess, are our four options. Rematch, triple threat from last year, Charlotte versus Becky, Charlotte versus Bayley, or Charlotte versus Rhea. What do y'all think? I think Charlotte versus Rhea is starting to look more and more likely, to be honest. Also, Barry MK400, thank you for the $2, dude. I appreciate it. Brock could just F5 everyone in the bowl and win. That's true. He could. Who's going to stop him? Spaz, Phoenix, what's going on? Okay, Fabe, good to see you here. I'm catching up on these super chats here. I'm sorry. Well, my phone is buzzing somewhere. Let me catch up on these before we start getting into NXT and AEW. All right, Barry, I caught yours. Okay, Fabe, did I miss you, man? Or there's one from Spaz Phoenix. $2. Thanks, dude. What's up, Greg? Show's killing it as always. Cheers. Thank you, man. Thanks for hanging out this afternoon, as always. And if you guys would do me a favor and smash that thumbs up button, I really need the likes. I'd appreciate it. I'll give you all a cookie. Okay, Fabe, how's it going? It's going great, brother. Thank you for stopping in. You're not giving me any money, dude. You're a colleague. Stop paying me. But thank you for the $5, dude. Always good to see you. You guys go over to OK Fabe's channel right now and subscribe to him. He's got a great podcast, a great voice, and can talk a lot faster than I can most of the time. So go check out Connor. He's good people. Spaz, thanks again for another $5, dude. I appreciate it. What's more unbelievable, about Fast 9? John Cena being Vin Diesel's brother, or John being a bad guy? I've never seen the Fast and Furious movies. I don't know. I did go, my girlfriend and I went and saw, I don't even know what it's called now, the spinoff with The Rock and the other dude a few months back. That's the only, we just went to see it for the fun of it, for the hell of it. I've never seen the Fast and the Furious movies. I don't know anything about them. I missed all the Paul Walker stuff and the Vin Diesel, and I just know they're ridiculous. Every time I saw a trailer for one of the movies, you see like a car jumping from the top of one skyscraper to another, and I'm like, I just can't watch that. It's fucking ludicrous. But anyway, they're up to Fast 9? There's been 9 of those movies? God damn. No, don't know John Cena being Vin Diesel's brother, that does sound kind of stupid. And I've been saying for a long time that I really want John Cena, and I think it'll happen, John Cena and The Rock to like be in a movie together. Now, it could be something like a Fast and the Furious movie where they kind of cross paths, have a scene together or something like that. But I'd like to see like Judd Apatow give these guys a call and make like a romantic comedy where they both go after the same girl, you know? Just these two muscle-headed idiots doing crazy shit, you know, like a 40-year-old virgin type of movie, just, you know, set with these two guys. And they don't have to be former wrestlers or anything. They don't have to be The Rock and John Cena. Just give them two regular names. They're just two gym rats who are, you know, going after, I don't know, whoever the hottest chick out there is right now in movies. I think it might be fun to see those guys in a romantic comedy together and some of the scenes and chemistry they could have. I think that would be pretty fun to see one day. But anyway, I want to move on to NXT and AEW as well, because we only have 45 minutes left in this podcast, and I got to get out of here. I thought both shows were good this week. They really were. Now, the ratings are in. AEW won again. Their rating was 828,000 to NXT's 712. And again, AEW dominated all the key demographics. But this is one of those ratings to where if it's like 100,000, I'm considering that pretty close. I'm considering that as two giant chunks of people watching wrestling shows. And I don't know how the ratings work either. I know my rating doesn't count. I just use a streaming app. I don't think they know that I'm watching AEW or I'm recording it and watching it later like I do NXT, because I work on most Wednesday nights. So a lot of times I don't get to watch these shows live. And I don't know how the ratings add up for people that are switching back and forth. There's probably hundreds of people doing that too, or thousands of people doing that, going back and forth between each show. So I don't know how the ratings really count for that if you're watching both. And for me, somebody who records both and watches them both later, ratings are just funny. So whenever you have the ratings somewhat close and within that 100,000 range, I'm not considering it like that great of a victory. But AEW did win again. They've been dominant, ever since the Wednesday Night Wars started. However, I think NXT had a pretty good show. I want to open up with them just because there was some really solid wrestling on the show. I love the opener between Finn Balor and Trent Seven. With some of the bumps Trent Seven was taking was crazy. Excellent match for Finn Balor, made him look like an absolute destroyer, badass killer, which is what he needs to gain momentum for his big match against Johnny Gargano at TakeOver. And we're going to run through the TakeOver card here in a minute. It looks awesome. I'm not sure what's going on with the promo with the rings, and something's going to be revealed next week on the February 5th edition of NXT. So we have some sort of a big reveal or maybe a new wrestler or gimmick debuting. Not sure there. We had a lot of women's matches on Wednesday, one of which was Shotzi Blackheart, who just got signed recently, defeating Deonna Purrazzo. Now, Shotzi came out in a little tank, and apparently she's been doing that on the indie scene, and that was great. I mean, the fans were marking out for that. I loved it. I hope they keep that. I hope that's going to be like her thing. And it's kind of funny because we just saw Sammy Guevara, who incidentally was just one of the nicest dudes on that entire Jericho cruise. Cannot say enough nice things about that kid. But he was outside of the Royal Rumble on like a little miniature tank, which is just awesome. So it kind of reminded me of that. So Shotzi in the WWE, fans like her. She's got a following, and she might have a pretty big future in the company as well. Keith Lee promo. He's out there with his newly won North American title. I was getting worried when he first started talking because he was then interrupted by Damian Priest. They had a few words, and then Dominik Dijakovic came out, and I was like, fuck, is it going to be one of these promos where it's like a stream of guys, one guy after another, each of which has to have their entrance music played, each of which has to have a microphone in their hands, each of which has to have a couple of lines of stupid fucking dialogue. But luckily, they stopped it at only 3 people. Priest and Dijakovic both want a shot at Keith Lee's newly won title. Keith Lee did the cool thing. He was like, you know what? This is between y'all. I'm out of here. And he fucking leaves the ring. Keith Lee's hilarious. And he ain't dropping that belt anytime soon. So that leads to a one-on-one match, Dijakovic versus Priest, which I loved because the bell rang and they just started swinging. They just started punching. These are not small guys. Damian Priest and Dijakovic are both, 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", something like that. They're fucking mooses. They're all both close to 300 pounds. And they're out there wrestling like cruiserweights. There was even a really gnarly Poison Rana onto Dominik Dijakovic from Damian Priest that I thought might have killed both guys. In the end, Dominik would regain control and hit his finisher for the win, and this sets him up in pretty good contention. This wasn't a number one contenders match, but it gives them, a good chance to be the first challenger for Keith Lee, and Dominik Dijakovic would make sense based on the fact that him and Keith Lee already have a ton of history, and they can work good matches together, and he might be a good first opponent for Keith Lee to run through, to be honest, because Keith Lee's not going to win that title. A guy like Keith Lee, who took Brock Lesnar to the limit at the Royal Rumble, is not going to win that title and drop it in his first title defense. Absolutely not. Keith Lee has got that thing until June minimum. So yeah, look forward to Dominik against Keith Lee. We've got a pretty good Tommaso Ciampa promo. Now, he already laid out the Undisputed Era backstage and comes down to the ring, and he's been demanding that Adam Cole pick him to face at NXT Portland, which we knew a month ago. I mean, it was definitely going to be Ciampa and Cole for the title next. He's going to be the next one in line. So they've strung this out a few weeks, and Tommaso, after laying out the Undisputed Era, he comes in the ring, calls out Adam Cole, says he wants his baby back because he never lost the NXT title. Don't forget that. Cole actually, I believe, took his place last year at TakeOver WrestleMania and won the belt. So we're close to like a year-long run for Adam Cole, And I have said right since the beginning of the year, ever since I sat here on New Year's Eve or whatever day that was, New Year's Day, and watched the NXT award show. That's when I said this. And the Undisputed Era came out there to accept award after award after award. They were so good, they were winning women's awards. That's how many they got. They just got every fucking plaque imaginable. I'm like, you can't, that's the perfect way. The wheels are going to come off now. You can't put this team over any strong. At the time, they all had titles. Roderick was still the North American title holder, and Undisputed Era's tag champs. Cole's NXT champ. They got all the belts. They got all the accolades. They got all the trophies. They all have all the recognition. Now it's time to move away from it. And I think it's going to happen. And I said, I'm like, once they announced the Keith Lee match against Roderick Strong, I'm like, this is it. Keith Lee is not going to lose that match. Keith Lee's already been involved in a 4-way, and he's already had a title shot there that Roderick has survived. Roderick ain't surviving again. And a lot of the North American champions haven't had long runs. Gargano, Velveteen Dream, Adam Cole, Ricochet, who else? I mean, the title's been flopped around a lot. Roderick has had a pretty long run with it. So he was ripe. So I said, Keith Lee's going to win. He did. And now we've got the Undisputed Era dropped a match in the Dusty Tag Team Classic. They are still tag team champions for the moment, but might not be for much longer. And now, with them going into Ciampa and Cole, I think Ciampa should take the belt off of him. I almost want to see it saved for WrestleMania just so Cole can get that like 1 year, but they've got this match coming up at Portland, and I think this might be it because the segment was really good. Adam Cole comes out and he gets on the mic as well. William Regal shows up with the contract that Adam Cole already signed, and Cole says, I want to go give it to Ciampa myself personally, and he brings it in the ring, and as soon as he gets in the ring, he boinks Ciampa on the top of the head with a microphone that cuts him open. And it made for it's just so great the way live TV can play out some ways, because I don't think that was intentional. I mean, it might have been, but I don't think the blood was intentional. He hit him right on the top of the head. Blood is streaming down Ciampa's face, and he's pulling it off, and he's wiping it on the contract and signing it in the blood. Great fucking shit. And I'm excited for this match, man. I'm excited for the build, and I'm excited for the match. You know, the match is only in 2 weeks, so the next couple of Wednesdays will be fun, but I kind of just want to see Ciampa win the belt back here, and this can be like the beginning of the end of the Undisputed Era. Now, I don't know what they do. I'm not sure how good this faction could be on the main roster. They're much better and more dominant feeling in NXT. So I don't necessarily want to say, okay, let's end the Undisputed Era and send them all to the main roster. It doesn't necessarily have to be that. They could all still stay in NXT, just break up or just do something. I don't know, do something else other than winning every title imaginable. So you got to decide what you want to do with them, but I do feel like this is the beginning of the end of their dominance. First with Roderick Strong, next possibly with Ciampa, or with winning over Adam Cole, and then eventually Undisputed Era dropping the tag belts, which could happen because they now have to face the winners of the Dusty Classic, the Broserweights, at NXT TakeOver as well. So all of them could lose their belts, and I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen real soon. Spaz, thanks for another $5, dude. I appreciate it. So with Edge re-injured, will we see Orton show up on NXT and RKO Beth? Edge, I don't know if RKO Beth, maybe, but showing up on NXT to maybe get in Beth's face, for sure, they should do that. Might be fun. And then you hit me with another $2. Appreciate that. Insert cheap plug for my NXT review here. All right, go to Spaz's channel right there. I'm sure it's one of the first videos up there. Give him a subscription as well and watch his NXT review. Might be a little bit more detailed than mine because I'm blowing through it. But anyway, I'm really excited for the Ciampa and Cole match. I think it's going to be really good. We got the first, or what we're expecting to be the first of a lot of matches likely between Dakota Kai and Tegan Nox. Finally, we're getting this one-on-one match after Dakota turned on her way back at War Games. And I love the beginning of the match where Tegan throws the knee brace right at the face of Dakota Kai, hits her right in the head. Candice LeRae came out to interrupt in this match to take away a chair from Dakota Kai that she was going to attempt to use on Tegan Nox. Tegan would eventually hit the Shiniest Wizard for the win, and that's pretty. I guess it was a shorter match than I expected it to be, but I also expected it to only be one match of many more, and it was announced later on that a street fight has been booked for TakeOver as well between Tegan Nox and Dakota Kai. So they're going to be working again, and when Tegan won on Wednesday, I said in my head, whatever they do and wherever this goes in the future, whatever the blow-off is, I think Dakota Kai will win it. So I think, based on how they built these two for so long, I'm not ready for the blow-off to be in 2 weeks. I'm hoping they do another one after TakeOver. So still not sure, what's how long that's going to last and how they can stretch it out. But in the end, I think Dakota will win the feud, so to speak, but they'll trade some victories. That's my prediction there. Kind of an upset, too, with Chelsea Green, who's recently aligned herself with this Robert Stone guy. I'm not into this yet. I'm not saying it can't work. I'm not saying it's going to be good. It's just an angle that I'm not particularly interested in at the moment. Chelsea Green was upset by Caden Carter with a small package, and that's really all I have to say about that. Not really sure about this Robert Stone group yet. And I did briefly mention the Broserweights. We do know that they did. We do know that they won the Dusty Classic in the main event of NXT, beating the Grizzled Young Veterans in a amazing main event. So good. Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne are fun together. I kind of like their chemistry. I love their interviews. They had an interview previously in the show, too, where they were just cracking the fans up, especially with Matt Riddle's kind of fun, laid-back vibe, and Pete Dunne just kind of sitting there with the same look on his face, maybe kind of reminiscent of Head Cheese. Al Snow and Steve Blackman. Al Snow was Mr. Funny Man and Blackman was Mr. Serious. It's kind of like that, just on a much bigger scale. You know, Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle, I think, are taken a little bit more seriously than Head Cheese, and they won the Dusty Cup here, and now they get a tag team title shot at TakeOver against the Undisputed Era. And speaking of TakeOver, this is what we're looking at right now for TakeOver Portland on the 16th, which is 2 weeks from tomorrow. Adam Cole defending the NXT title against Tommaso Ciampa. The Undisputed Era defending the tag team titles against the Broserweights. Rhea Ripley defending her NXT championship, not women's championship, her NXT championship or whatever, against Bianca Belair. Rhea's going to retain there. And Bianca, man, she's a star. She's a star in the making. I think Bianca could either go to the main roster right now and WWE could start marketing the hell out of the hair of hers, or she loses here to Rhea Ripley, stays in NXT for the next 8 or 9 months, and whenever Rhea Ripley finally drops the belt, Bianca's the one she drops it to. I wouldn't mind seeing that. I think Bianca deserves to have her day in the sun in NXT. Unfortunately, right now, it's Rhea Ripley's time. So if Bianca stays in NXT and they don't move her to the main roster around like WrestleMania time or after this match, I think she eventually does win the title, and she'll be the one to beat Rhea Ripley. It'll be like Kurt Angle and Benoit. You know, Benoit, falls short. He's had a couple of title matches. He's almost there. He's on the cusp, and he just falls short, and then eventually, a couple of years later, he finally reaches the top of the mountain. Would kind of like to see a similar trajectory for Bianca Belair, but I don't think she's going to be winning this match against Rhea Ripley. Finn Balor taking on Johnny Gargano. That's going to be, as Jim Ross would say, a dandy. Tegan Nox and Dakota Kai in a street fight. I just talked about that. And I'm guessing Keith Lee defending the North American title. Now, it doesn't look like this TakeOver is going to be like a typical TakeOver. Most of those were like 4 matches, 2.5 hours long, the night before a pay-per-view. But now that they have their own Sunday show, it's looking like the cards are going to be bigger. So, I mean, we've got, 5 matches officially announced, and we could probably get 1 more, maybe even 2 more. And who knows if they start having kickoff matches and shit. So, yeah, like I said earlier about the identity of NXT changing a little bit, I personally am not a fan of this. I mean, I'm sure the TakeOver Portland is still going to be awesome. Don't get me wrong. It's going to be awesome. But I miss the old TakeOvers. I just miss the short, condensed shows, awesome wrestling, 4 matches, edge of your seat the whole time, no filler. That's what I miss, and I'm worried that's going to be compromised now. But anyway, that is your NXT show in a nutshell. I thought it was good from top to bottom. I thought there was good matches on the show. I thought they did an excellent job of building for TakeOver Portland, and the TakeOver Portland card looks phenomenal. So NXT, even though they are losing in the ratings, is firing on all cylinders here. This shit is shit's good. AEW, on the other hand, like I said, they did win in the ratings this week, 828,000 for them. Jon Moxley opens up the show, cutting a promo, calling out Chris Jericho. Jericho comes out, and I kind of like the new trend of everybody singing the Judas song. They did this on the cruise, and now Jericho, you can tell he wants that to be a thing. And it's fun. I'm glad that I hope it sticks. I hope AEW doesn't WWE-ize this and they fucking ruin it. And they take something that's fun and entertaining and then just smash it down your throats, and then it becomes boring and old. Let's hope that doesn't happen with the fan participation there. Just want to do a quick sound check there. But he comes out there with the entire inner circle, and then, when Moxley, because they were in Cincinnati, I believe, or Cleveland, and Moxley's an Ohio native, and he's on the mic saying, it might be 5-on-1, but it's actually 5-on-10,000 because all these fans have got my back. And that's when Chris Jericho announces that they've got just some random dudes, some random street thugs, friends of Proud and Powerful, that are also there. So now it's like 10 against 1. And Moxley dives right into the fray, attacks him, and actually stands his ground. You know, he didn't end up getting killed by those 10 guys. He got a couple of shots in. He headbutted, I think, Santana right in the face, and got in the ring and, you know, was able to run them all off. Jericho's all mad. And he survived that onslaught, which is pretty interesting. We had pretty good tag match with the Young Bucks defeating the Butcher and the Blade. Now, the Butcher and the Blade earlier on were like bribed by MJF in a meat packing plant or something. Really fucking weird segment there. So he kind of bribed them to take on the Young Bucks, I guess, for revenge for tossing them in the pool of the Jericho Cruise. And the Young Bucks won, hitting the Meltzer driver for the win there. They get attacked after the match. All the heels jump in the ring and start beating the shit out of the Bucks. Kenny Omega and a very, very late Adam Page, who's just drinking and walking down to the ring in his cowboy gear, come in to make the save. And they're still continuing this Adam Page stuff. I mean, they're really dragging this out. And what is good about this is I kind of questioned if they should have even won the tag team titles, because there's dissension there, and do you even really need that? But then the more I think about it, I'm actually glad that they are dragging this out, because one person that's benefiting from this is Adam Page. I think one of the problems with Hangman, especially when he got the title shot against Jericho, is a lot of fans didn't feel like he was really like a main event player. We haven't connected with him yet, unless you followed him his whole career and everywhere where he's been, which some people have. But to a mainstream like wrestling audience trying to get to know these new characters, we don't really get a feel much of who Hangman Page is. So his character's evolving here, which is good, and I think will wind up benefiting him in the long run. And eventually they're going to do the turn, right? I mean, it's got to be Adam Page going heel. I think he'd be a better heel than a babyface at this point. And then feuding with Kenny Omega. And you have the tag team titles now in the mix. And you have the Elite teasing dissension with themselves, with Adam Page kind of bragging that they're tag team champions and the Young Bucks are not. So we might, prior to the breakup, get a Kenny Omega, Adam Page versus Young Bucks title match before they finally do whatever they're going to do here. So my guess is that the end game here is for Adam Page to finally turn officially heel, be a beer-drinking cowboy, you know, maybe like a Stone Cold with long hair and a belt buckle, and be that kind of guy, and then have a feud with Kenny Omega throughout the early part of 2020. It just depends on when AEW decides to pull the trigger on this. But I'm kind of liking all of that because I think it's benefiting Adam Page, and I think his character is evolving, and I'm starting to care about him a little bit more because I didn't really care about him much at all before that. And he was another guy that was pretty cool on the Jericho Cruise. We've got Nyla Rose on a pretty big winning streak. She's your new number one contender. She defeated Big Swole in a one-on-one match, so she'll be getting the title shot against Riho. And I kind of thought they were in the finals of the women's title match, right, when AEW launched. I kind of thought Nyla Rose would be the first champion anyway. So she's back to being the number one contender now, and part of me wonders if they're going to put the belt on her eventually. So that match, I guess, will come at Revolution, which is not until the end of the month. We've got a whole month until Revolution. One of those matches, though, is going to be Cody Rhodes against MJF. Now, Cody had a match with Kip Sabian on Dynamite, and I liked this match. I like Cody, but there's a couple things that were just weird with it. Now, Cody has got Kip Sabian down. He hits him with a disaster kick, and Penelope Ford, who's just been all over this match, interfering and making a ruckus, she throws her shoe in the ring. Throws her shoe in the ring to kind of distract the referee, and it gave Kip Sabian just enough time to kick out of the disaster kick. So I think this, like, it pisses off Arn Anderson. So Arn Anderson gets in the ring, and for some reason, Arn Anderson is like playing the role of this coach. He's got this Denny's menu in his hand. And I mentioned a couple of weeks ago when Cody had the match with Darby Allin, and Arn got up on the ring apron. He's like, put your knees up, put your knees up. And then Cody put his knees up. I'm like, come on, man. Cody's in his mid-30s. He's the son of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. At this point, he can be considered a veteran in wrestling. He should not need somebody to tell him to put his knees up on a move that he should already have scouted. And I'm like, I don't like this role. I don't like this advisor role. They don't fit to me at all. And I think I almost felt it was a way for AEW to shoehorn Arn Anderson into a role, to an on-screen role. But now I'm kind of hoping that it's going to be a short-term deal, because I'm thinking he might turn or something, because he gets in the ring, he bumps the referee, which is stupid. Referee throws him out of the match. Cody Rhodes eventually, regains control, but not before we get a quick little cameo by Joey Janela. Kip Sabian has got Cody down on the outside of the ring, and he goes in across the guardrail in the corner of it to kiss Penelope Ford. Joey Janela is hiding, crouched down under the railing, and he pops his head up for the two of them to each kiss him on each cheek. And it was a great visual. I had to throw it in the thumbnail here, too, because it cracked me up. It popped me. I really liked that moment. And in the end, Cody would regain control and I think hit 3 crossroads on Kip Sabian for the win. And next week, he's got to get his 10 lashes from NJF. I think his first of many stipulations that he has to go through in order to get that match at Revolution. So what I'm thinking here with the Arn stuff is that, to me, like I said, he just doesn't fit this coaching, type of thing. It's one thing for like Sean Spears to do it, maybe, even though he's not necessarily a young guy. I can see like maybe a young up and comer trying to acquire the services of a wrestling legend to advise them, to manage them, to coach them. That would make perfect sense if Arn was out there with his little Denny's menu and his playbook, if he's out there with a rookie, or if he's out there with a guy that's, only been in the business a couple of years. This is Cody fucking Rhodes. He doesn't need a coach. He knows what he's doing. So it just doesn't fucking fit. And so if AEW realizes this, I'm like, okay, the Arn and Cody, there's no chemistry there. They got no business being together. And I speculated right from the start that based on the Horsemen's history with Dusty Rhodes, why would Cody even trust this fucker to begin with? So now I'm thinking that when we finally do get to that match, because Cody's going to have to get through all these obstacles. He has to get the 10 lashes, which is going to be really weird to watch next week. Then he's got to have the cage match with Wardlow. He's got to do all this shit to finally get that match. He's going to overcome all of these obstacles, finally get his hands on MJF, but MJF's going to win. MJF's going to win because maybe Arn Anderson turns on him. And that's what I would like to see. So if Arn is being put with Cody just for it to be a way for MJF to win the match at Revolution, fine. I can handle it for 2 months, no big deal. But if they actually think that Arn Anderson and Cody Rhodes go together, that they make some sort of logical storyline sense, they don't. They make no sense at all. They got no business being together. Cody doesn't need him. He doesn't need a manager. He doesn't need help. He doesn't need a coach. And plus, Arn, it's not like Arn's Bobby the Brain Heenan. It's not like Arn is Paul Heyman. If he's one of those guys, fine. If Cody Rhodes gets Paul Heyman on his side and becomes a Paul Heyman guy, great. Because it's much more beneficial to be a Paul Heyman guy than an Arn Anderson guy. So I just don't think that the alliance works at all. So I'm hoping that Arn turns on Cody in the match with MJF, prolonging that feud, because that's the thing. Who benefits more? Does MJF benefit more from a win, or does Cody benefit more from a win? I think MJF benefits more from a win based on this long feud. And you would think that Cody, being the smart booker that he is, sees long-term money in this as well. So you put MJ over first with some help from Arn Anderson, immediately setting up your return, and you can run for 3 or 4 months. So that's what I think they should do here with Arn Anderson. Otherwise, this shit doesn't make sense at all. What do y'all think? Did I miss any Super chats? I don't think I did. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you guys look like you're agreeing with me about Cody Rhodes. And Sean Spears is a guy, too. He's not young at all, but at least he's a guy that's been trying to reach the top of the card. Cody's like an executive. He's already on top. He doesn't need anybody else to help get him there. Plus, he can't even, according to the stipulation, he can't even get another title shot until they rewrite him back into that scenario. So he's got some time to kill with MJF, and I think the longer the better, which is why I think MJF should find a way to win that match at Revolution, and having help from Arn Anderson could be a way to do it, and a way to get out of, not only give Cody or give MJF the win, but also get out of the deal with Cody and Arn Anderson. Britt Baker had a promo. She cut a heel promo on Dynamite as well. Much better than the boat promo. Now, I was in the audience for the Jericho Cruise promo, and over the microphone in the audience, I did not think the promo was bad. But when you watched it on TV, it didn't look good. And I think part of the biggest problem is that Britt Baker was cold. It was cold that night. It was just really, the weather was really temperamental. A couple nights it was chilly, and then the very next morning it was 80 degrees, sunny, perfect weather, no wind at all. But that night for the taping, it was a little chilly and it was a little bit windy, and I think that might have affected Britt Baker's promo. I think she was cold, and she just couldn't get the words out with the fire that you need to as a heel. But I didn't notice that in the crowd. I thought the promo was pretty good. I'm like, holy shit, she just called Tony Schiavone a shitty barista or something like that. So it was better in person than it was on TV. But this promo, I think, was a lot better than the Cruise promo because she was kind of funny. She diagnosed Schiavone with gingivitis, and she shit on Jim Ross for not knowing names. And then she told the Cleveland crowd that they finally have a baker that they can rely on, which I thought was great. So it was good. All in all, good stuff from Miss Baker there, from the doctor, excuse me. SCU bounced back after dropping the tag team titles last week, defeating the Hybrid 2. The Dark Order appeared on the Tron, and they've been talking to Daniels a lot, and I was the one that called this out forever. ever since we saw these dudes in the creepy masks and Christopher Daniels was attacked by the Lucha Bros and knocked on his ass and was out of action a couple of weeks, and then he did the botch on the ropes and everything. I'm like, he's going to go back to the Fallen Angel gimmick. And I feel like I felt like he was going to turn on SCU already, like it already was going to happen. And based on the fact that this guy is about to be 50 years old, you know, he might want to transition back into being character first, wrestler second. And him having maybe a darker gimmick or kind of going back to that old persona of his might fit in well with the Dark Order, and I think they're going to do it. So I think you got Adam Page, Arn Anderson, and Christopher Daniels all on the verge of a turn in AEW. The main event was a pretty good six-man tag with Jericho and Proud and Powerful, defeating Darby Allin and the Private Party. Now, Jericho hit the Judas effect on Isaiah Cassidy for the win. After the match, all the heels continue to beat down Darby Allin, and it looks like they're setting up for a Darby Allin and Sammy Guevara feud, which I think will be fun. These two little guys can probably have some fun together in the ring. Guevara grabs Darby's skateboard and starts playing it like a guitar, and then they put it underneath the throat of Darby Allin, and they ram it into the mat. That was a great spot. Santana's like balancing on the skateboard the whole time. Funny shit. Jon Moxley comes back out again, this time with a baseball bat to run everybody off and to really set up the stare down between him and Chris Jericho. And what do you guys think at Revolution? It's funny that the top AEW storyline is essentially with two former WWE guys. But I think based on the way Moxley is being built, he's been built to look strong on every show. Even when he took the spike to the eye, he looked like a badass because he's busting out of the ambulance door and he's coming back in the ring and shit. So much like Drew McIntyre, they are making it known this is going to be our guy. So I think, you know, Jericho won the title a few months ago. They're pushing Moxley hard for him to survive Moxley now. You know, then who's he going to drop the belt to? Is he going to hold it for longer? You know, I almost think that he should drop it here, take some time off for the belt for a while, and then maybe come back to it. Maybe get like another run with it around the time of the next Jericho Cruise, which is 1 year from today on February 1st. I think it launches. Not sure if I'm going to that or not. Probably not. But if he drops it to Moxley, I think Moxley will be an excellent guy to have on TV, cutting promos with the belt every week, and can do a pretty good job of carrying the torch because Jericho's been amazing on TV. He's been amazing. One of the best parts about AEW. His promos are so fun. They're so entertaining. Le Champion is le hilarious. And I think somebody's got to be able to step up and fill that void as world champion, where somebody like Adam Page or Kenny Omega or even Cody might not be able to. I think Moxley's the right guy right now. So I'm kind of picking him to beat Jericho and win the title. And it'll be great for him, you know. He did an interview because they were in Cleveland. I think Sean Ross Sapp, shout out to him, by the way, who donated his ponytail to Wigs for Kids. I did that back in 2001 when I cut off my ponytail. If you can believe I did have hair. Didn't donate it to Wigs for Kids, but the place that cut it off took care of it for me and donated it somewhere that makes wigs for cancer patients. So I appreciated him doing that because that's something I've done. And so he was in town for that. And he also had an interview with Jon Moxley. And Moxley has basically said in that he's on vacation. He feels like his whole life is a vacation now. He doesn't have to deal with just the day-to-day bullshit of what being a WWE employee includes. He's having fun. He had the time of his life on the Jericho Cruise, out there singing karaoke and shit. He seems to be having fun. He enjoys what he's doing. He's enjoying wrestling again. And if he winds up winning the title here, it's like, wow, you know, that could be a good, if I was AEW, I would absolutely put the title on him, because what that will do is tell all those other WWE stars that have contracts coming up soon, hey, look what you can do over here. Are you tired of eating catering and working main event matches or not being used at all? Being flown away from your families to TV to sit in a locker room for 9 hours and then leave with no match? Or would you like to come here and contend for a title? I wonder which one I'll pick. Oh, and by the way, you have to work about the fourth of 1/3 is as many dates as you would with WWE. Tough decision. So if I were AEW, just for the fact of, you know, maybe luring away, you know, other pieces of talent, put the belt on Moxley and say, see, look what we do over here. So yeah, AEW was an excellent show, but I got to give the nod to NXT this week. I mean, AEW won in the ratings, and both shows were good. I'm not making excuses for anybody. I don't fucking give a shit whose side you're on or whatever. But when I'm watching both shows and I'm judging both shows, the way they're structured, the way the matches are, the way they built for the next pay-per-view, I enjoyed everything on NXT, and I enjoyed almost everything on AEW, which is why I'm giving NXT the nod this week for the better show. But the ratings reflected AEW as the better show. Before we get into SmackDown, let me jump back in here and answer a couple of super chats that have been rolling in. Oh, no, just one rolling in. Michael Cuomo, thanks again, dude. Appreciate it. He is another awesome patron supporter. I know it's late asking this, but how do you like the new IC title design? I hate it. I don't like it, Michael, at all. Well, actually, I should say this. I don't hate the design. I hate that it replaced the design that I love. And as a matter of fact, that's pretty much when Nakamura debuted that belt. That's pretty much the reason why I can never figure out which side I'm pointing to. Right behind me, the Intercontinental replica belt. Because it was Black Friday. I'm like, you know what? If I'm ever going to buy this belt, I can probably find it for a pretty good deal. And I did. And I'm like, I'm going to get that and hang it on the wall because it's my absolute favorite Intercontinental title design. Must have the black strap. Fuck the white strap. I know a lot of you will like the white strap, but you're all crazy. The black strap is the way to go. And I pretty much bought that replica just because WWE has retired that design. And it made me sad. So if this was some new belt, if they replaced the United States title with this design, then I'd be fine with it. But since it was the IC title, I don't really like it. And it looks a lot like the Cruiserweight title because they've just recently changed the Cruiserweight title strap from purple to black. And to me, it looks an awful lot alike the Intercontinental title. It looks identical to it. So, yeah, I'm not a fan of it, Michael. But thank you for the $5, dude. I appreciate it. Nick Musser, good to see you in here. Thanks for the $2. Greg, I put your face on my Snapchat story. Thank you, dude. I am not a Snapchatter. I've never chatted a snap or snapped a chat. I've also never sent an Instagram. So there's some things on social media I just don't do. But I've been thinking about the Instagram thing for a while. I probably should do that. I have the Facebook page too, but Instagram is something I've always stayed away from, and Snapchat I don't even know how to use. But I appreciate the shout out on the chat and the snaps. Let's talk about SmackDown now. What sucks about SmackDown is that we had an Intercontinental title change on the show, and most fans considered this a bad show. Primarily because of the dog food. Now, this whole show was set up around dog food. Now, the fans have been shitting on this dog food stuff for a while. I don't think I hate it as much as everybody else. It's not good, don't get me wrong, but people are acting like the dog food storyline is the dumbest thing ever. Bitch, in 1997, they did the same thing with Ken Shamrock and the British Bulldog. He's going to eat dog food. He's going to eat dog food. I'm going to feed him dog food. They had the dog food match. That's SummerSlam. Ken Shamrock went nuts because Davey shoved dog food in his face. I think Davey got thrown into some shit, too, and people's elbowed on it by The Rock or something. So there's always been shit like this going on. But Roman Reigns got covered in the dog food several weeks back, handcuffed to the ring post and all that. So on SmackDown, it's going to be a 6-man tag main event. Roman Reigns and the Usos taking on Corbin, Rude, and Ziggler. So Roman and the Usos are out there cutting a promo, talking about the Royal Rumble and all that shit. Corbin comes out with Ziggler and Rude. They start talking smack on the mic, and that's when Roman Reigns proposes the dog food stipulation in the main event. So the loser of the main event has to eat dog food. Okay, fine. So you fast forward to the main event now. They got a big table out there. I think it was the main event. I watched the YouTube clips of SmackDown. So they got the big table out there with all the dog food on it. And they got like vats of this dog food. They have some in cans and then like just big bowls of it, which I'm assuming has got to be like spaghetti sauce or fucking baked beans or something just brown and nasty, but not dog food. I mean, I'd be yakking. Like even when I feed my cats that wet food, I get it on my hand and I accidentally have my hand near my nose and I smell it. I literally gag. I literally almost throw up. It's the nastiest smelling shit. Animal food. So I would not want that stuff on me. So that had to be fake dog food. Maybe the stuff in the cans was real. I don't know. So anyway, Roman and the Usos end up defeating Baron Corbin and company. And after the match, Corbin tries to run away. They stop him. They grab him, handcuff him, just like he did to Roman. They hang his ass to the ring post, and they just dump gallons of this shit all over him, which, like I said, had to have been something else other than dog food. And one of the funniest parts was when they kind of did like the selfie. They took the picture of like thumbs up and smiling next to Corbin, who's just like hanging there with the shit dripping off of him. All the fans absolutely hated it, absolutely took a shit on it. And like I said, it wasn't good, but I guess that wasn't so bad. We enjoy seeing Baron Corbin humiliated, don't we? They were making a big deal about the dog food. I think Michael Cole was even overselling it. He's got to eat dog food. I think Michael Cole even knows the absurdity of this because this is so Vince McMahon. This is probably something that Vince McMahon came up with. This is so typical him. So yeah, it's dumb, but I'm not thinking it's like the worst storyline we've ever seen, you know? So dog food is involved. Roman Reigns is a big dog, and then they brought out dog food. I could see this happening in the UFC. You know, if somebody had a nickname dog or big dog or something like that, then their opponent comes out with a can of dog food or something. Maybe not necessarily to rub it on their face, but, just to bring it out there to taunt them. It's not really the most ridiculous thing ever. But hopefully it's over and it doesn't matter, because Corbin and Roman, what is there left to do now? Corbin lost at the Royal Rumble. Now he got humiliated here. Roman seems like he's got to move on to something else unless they try to squeeze in one more Corbin and Roman match, which I hope not. And now you got to start thinking about WrestleMania. And is Roman Reigns going to be the guy to challenge The Fiend? He likely will be. I mentioned Braun Strowman earlier on. He did win the Intercontinental title in a match that was okay, but not even that great against Shinsuke Nakamura. He was able to fend off the interference from Sami Zayn and Cesaro, wound up power slamming Nakamura, got the victory. The celebration was great. I was really happy for Braun Strowman, but it was almost like bittersweet. I'm like, okay, WWE, great, but you realize he should have had this exact same moment 2 years ago with the Universal title, and you'd have a star on your hands, in addition to the ones you already have with Roman and Brock Lesnar, and in addition to the one you're already about to make here with Drew McIntyre. To me, I just thought it was a lose-lose situation for WWE to put Braun Strowman over huge when he was dominating Roman Reigns. I was like, this is the guy that should beat Brock Lesnar. All of this should belong to Braun Strowman, and it wasn't. And they just decided not to. And now we've got this thing again with Drew McIntyre, and I hope they don't hesitate with him. So Braun Strowman finally winning his first ever singles title in the WWE is great, but it took way too long. So I'm kind of going to be the cynic here, even though I'm very happy for him. I'm like, WWE, who's to say they're not going to take this thing off of him at WrestleMania? They'll have him drop the belt that quickly. And again, the transformation into Big Show 2.0 is pretty much there, because Big Show had a run with the IC title once his days of competing on top were over too. So Strowman's the new IC champ. Great. I think he should be dominant and go on a dominant run. But if he just, drops the title and, loses in some shitty way to some heel that cheats in 6 weeks, like what was even the point of this? So even though I'm happy he won the title, I just don't know. I just don't know if it's enough to save him or not. But if he has some sort of a crazy dominant run, Intercontinental champions don't generally hold the title for a year anymore. But if he can get a minimum of like 6 to 8 months, would be really great and might help out his character a lot. But congrats to Braun Strowman either way on being the new Intercontinental champion. Miz and Morrison are your new number one contenders for the tag team titles. They're going to be taking on the New Day in Saudi Arabia. They won a fatal 4-way over the Revival, the Lucha House Party, and Heavy Machinery. Now, speaking of Heavy Machinery, Otis and Mandy have got a date in 2 weeks on SmackDown on Valentine's Day, which, shit, I just realized that Valentine's Day is a fucking Friday. That's going to make my life miserable because I'm in the restaurant business, and Valentine's Day sucks. We call it amateur night. Just way too many kids, way too many people, young people that aren't used to going out to eat, way too many awkward dinners. They don't tip. Some of them don't drink, and they don't take their time because they want to have a romantic dinner, and it sucks. So Valentine's Day sucks in the restaurant business for me. But anyway, Otis asks Mandy out on a date. He goes, will you go on a date with me next Friday? And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. I have plans next Friday, but I'm free the Friday after that. I don't know why she's not free on Thursday or Saturday. I guess they can only see each other on Fridays. But Otis is like, okay, cool. It's a date 2 weeks from now. And then they walk away, and Tucker's like, dude, you discorded a date with Mandy on Valentine's Day. So that's going to be a pretty funny segment. I can't believe I'm excited to see that. But I want to see Otis dressed up and taking this woman to some weird, who knows, he's probably going to take her to Chili's or something for Valentine's Day. Whatever they do in the skit, I hope it's funny. I hope it's not a romantic dinner in a romantic restaurant. I really hope he takes her to a sports bar or something. I think that would be really fun. So we'll see what happens in 2 weeks on Valentine's Day. Fire and Desire, by the way, Mandy, after getting that date, would lose with Sonya Deville in a match against Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. And the only other match I've written down for SmackDown is Sheamus defeating Shorty G again. So I don't know what the point of the Shorty G gimmick is. I don't know if they're going to bring back Jason Jordan and he's going to be Biggie J and Shorty J, or Shorty G and Biggie J, and they reform American Alpha. American Alpha. Awful. Alpha. Yes. And maybe they can be called something else until getting fed up. They got these stupid gimmicks and then they shred the gimmicks and they go back to being the original American Alpha team that we knew from NXT and all the great matches they had. But I don't even know what Jason Jordan's deal is. I guess we should check in with his dad, Kurt Angle, on that one. But you thought that WWE was taking a great wrestler like Chad Gable and saying, okay, let's just change his gimmick up and it's going to be so stupid it's going to get over. but it's not. It's having like the opposite effect. It's so ridiculously dumb, and they've basically taken this great champion, this fucking Olympian, this great wrestler who's got all the potential in the world, and turned him into a goddamn joke. It's kind of what they do. So, Shorty, how's your contract status going? You want to go to that company that has shows on Wednesday? I think you'd be better there. So yeah, WWE, fuck you with that Shorty G shit. It sucks. I cannot believe it is 22 past the hour, and I am done with my notes with 8 minutes left to spare. Every time I try to do one of these 90-minute podcasts, I run out of time, and I got to run through everything real quick. But we got through it today. We did. So let me go here and hang out in the chat for a minute while I answer a couple of questions and talk about other things. Stone Cold, thank you for the $2. Spears, I think, was more over as perfect 10. Yeah, he kind of was. I mean, a lot of people thought that a guy like Dillinger who did nothing in WWE, would really excel in AEW, and they tried. They tried to make him a big deal. He cracked Cody over the head with the chair. They had the pay-per-view match. They gave him a mouthpiece, or they gave him a manager like Tully Blanchard, but it still ain't connecting, And that's why I like that they're moving. I haven't even heard the latest on that, but last I saw that he was in search of a tag team partner. That's probably the best thing for him at this point, I think. So I don't know who that tag team partner is going to wind up being. I rock. Thank you, Chris Clark. You rock too. Shorty G to MLW. I mean, Shorty G should stay in WWE, is where he should be. He's a great talent the WWE should utilize, but why they come up with these things, why they look at this guy and say, you know what, let's cut your hair and put you in a basketball uniform and call you Shorty G. Who the fuck? You can't, what are you smoking? Can I have some? Because what the F? Mark wants to see Otis get destroyed. He hates that dude. You are evil, Mark C. Oh, and you're a cynic too. Listen to this. Is it me, or does Brock versus McIntyre not seem like a big deal? It's just you. Does anything entertain you? Jesus Christ. Lesnar and McIntyre's going to be awesome, dude. Fucking kind of shit are you watching? Yeah, so right now, Mark C., I've disagreed with every single comment you've made. Congratulations. You know not what you say. Michael Kumo, thank you for another $5, dude. I appreciate it. Jordan's career is likely done after his neck surgery. Jason has been in production meetings lately. Yeah, I've heard about all that. But Edge is back, We even heard rumors of Paige and stuff. So, yeah, Jason Jordan's career likely is done, but he's also super duper fucking young. And with a guy like this that's been gone for so long and so under the radar, our fingers aren't on the pulse what's going on with this guy. Yeah, likely he's done, but, who knows? You don't know shit. No, none of us are back there. So I hope, I kind of hope you're wrong, Michael, but I'm tending to agree with you there that Jason Jordan likely is done. But if they brought him back, it might be a fun way to do it. It might help get Shorty G out of that stupid gimmick, but, likely we wouldn't be seeing him again. Gargano versus Balor match of the year. Yeah. Let's see what happens. I wouldn't doubt it. I don't know, man. It's early. It's early 2020. We got a lot of takeovers. But yeah, I think it's going to be up there. That's going to be a fun one. I just can't wait just to watch that. Do you think that'll open the show? I mean, looking at the Portland card here, Ciampa Cole, Broserweight's undisputed. That probably could open the show, the tag title match. Bianca and Rhea, Balor and Gargano, Tegan and Dakota. Yeah, one of those matches has to open. I can see it being Balor and Gargano. Man, that's going to be a good match. Those guys can wrestle for a title, hopefully at some point. So yeah, anyway, I think I got to wrap up business here and get the hell out of here. Let's see, what is on my schedule this week? What do I have to tell you guys about? Okay, I guess Monday. Monday I'll be up here after Raw. We'll do a live Raw review. No other video other than that scheduled next week, but I might be able to get up at This Day in History or a mic drop or something, because I am working on a whole nother video. And I'm starting to put together WrestleMania stuff. So aside from Monday night's Raw review, it's up in the air what I do next week. I'm going to try to come up between Monday and Saturday, obviously. I'm just not sure what yet. So make sure you stay tuned. But in the meantime, like I said, I got great content on the channel right now. If you want to go back and watch the podcast, I've got my Chris Jericho Cruise review and recap that was released just a couple of days ago. I've got a classic pay-per-view review of the Royal Rumble 2007. And I have my thoughts on this past week's Monday Night Raw, all up on my channel right now for you guys to check out and enjoy. In the meantime, shoot me a follow over on Twitter at GoodMicWork. We're getting really close to 5,000 Twitter followers, so that's very cool. Like the Facebook page. We're over 2,000 likes on the Facebook page, but we could use some more. And Subscribe to this channel because it's awesome here. You guys have a great rest of your Saturday. I will catch you in just 2 days after Monday Night Raw, and it should be fun. Y'all be good. Talk to you then. Peace.